right?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. Hmm. Let's double check what's going on. Okay, I think I'm sharing now. Let's see.
You're good.
Great. Thanks so much. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Financial Aid Information Night. I'm so glad you could join us. Just so you know, I will be recording this and we will send it to all the parents tomorrow. We will also have the seniors watch it in their government classes during the coming weeks. So there's a lot going on with financial aid. Probably the biggest changes I've seen in the 17 years I have been a college and career counselor. So even if you've had previous children go through this before, please watch, take notes, follow up with me with any questions because there's lots and lots of changes. So saddle up, here we go. So questions that we're going to answer include how much does college cost? What is included in the total cost? What is the difference between grants, scholarships, loans, and work study? And how does a student receive financial aid? So, more than half of all students attending college in the United States receive some form of financial assistance. And it is a fallacy to think that only students who are extremely low income receive financial aid. In fact, I have seen students receive financial aid at some universities when their parents make up to $250,000. So it kind of depends on how the college you're applying to treats their financial aid and what formulas they use to figure out who gets financial aid. So, financial aid includes money, it basically means money that you receive from outside your family to help you pay for college. So, that includes the FAFSA, which is from the federal government, and FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. You certainly do not need to pay anybody to do your financial aid. I have worked with hundreds and hundreds of students over the years, and pretty much everybody is capable of doing it themselves. They might need a little help from us in the college office, but you really don't need to pay somebody to do your aid. It does not mean you're going to get more money, just so you know. So TAP is also part of financial aid, and that is from New York State Aid. And also, financial aid can include scholarships from institutions or private organizations. I think I just lost the screen. Just a second. Let's get going again. Yep, I just lost it. Sorry. Hey, Zaretta, can you somehow I'm not the host anymore. Can you please stick me back on there? Okay, so let's see. Let's try that one more time. Sorry, everybody. Okay. Popping back. There we go. Okay, I think I'm showing now. All right. So who can apply for financial aid? So to apply for federal aid, that's FAFSA and TAP, the student must be a US citizen or a legal permanent resident. That's a green card holder, a current green card holder. If you've only just applied to get your green card, you are not yet able to apply for financial aid. Or the student can have refugee or asylum status. So if you are not in one of these three categories, then you can apply for something called the New York State DREAM Act, which would qualify the student to get state aid for CUNY or SUNY tuition. Yes, you can still apply to private institutions and out-of-state public institutions, but understand that you will not be able to apply for federal aid to assist you in affording to go to these schools. So it's really rare to get enough aid from those schools to make it worth your while to apply. So if you're in that special situation, come and talk to me in the college office or email or text me and I should be able to help you. So how much does college cost? So the cost of attendance includes several things. First, there's the costs that get billed. So that's the tuition and fees. And if you decide to live on campus, your on-campus room and board. So those costs will actually show up on the college bill. They're going to be the same for pretty much everybody. You can't negotiate them. But then there's indirect costs that you still need to take into account. Books and supplies, off-campus room and board, if you happen to be, living in an apartment or something on your own, personal expenses, and any travel costs. So those are costs that don't show up on the college bill, but you should take into account that you'll have to pay for all this stuff. So this is, for many of us, this will be the first time that we're paying for textbooks, that we're paying for a MetroCard. So these are all things that you need to take into account. So what is the process of applying for financial aid? Actually, let me see if I can do this as a presentation. Just a second, guys. Whoops. There we go. Okay, sorry, I just set this up as a slideshow. That's better. Okay, so for grants are free money that you don't have to pay back. So if you've ever heard of a Pell Grant, right, that's federal, that would be up to $7,000 a year. There is a thing called the federal CEOG grant, the FCEOG grant, that is also federal, and that's up to $4,000 a year. Pell Grants and CEOG grants are usually given to students who have the lowest income, and you access them by doing the FAFSA. Then there's state grants. So for us, that's the TAP. You can get up to $5,665 from TAP. All of this is by year, okay, per year. And then there's institutional grants, which is another fancy way of saying a merit scholarship. So these will vary from college to college. Some schools will offer a little bit off of the tuition. Some schools will offer almost the whole tuition. So it really depends on what the rules are from college to college. Okay, then there's another thing that you access through FAFSA called federal loans. Now, I know that people get nervous about loans, and a lot of parents don't want their kids to take any loans, which I totally get. When you do the FAFSA, you're not getting the loan. All you're doing is you're finding out how much loan you would qualify for. So it's entirely possible that you would do the FAFSA and only take the grants and not accept the loans. That's fine. You're able to do that. But at least you know how much you're able to use if you needed a loan. So the federal loans that most students get would be the direct subsidized and unsubsidized loans. These are great. Most students will qualify for them. The most that you can access would be $5,500 for your first year. And the interest rate is extremely low. So parents, you know this already. Students, you may not know this already. But the lower the interest rate, the better it is for you, because that means you're paying less extra money back over time, right? So another thing that you need to know about the direct subsidized and unsubsidized loans is that it is in the student's name. It has nothing to do with the parent. So if a student qualifies for an unsubsidized loan of $5,500, they could qualify for that even if their parents are millionaires, because that money is their parents' money. It's not the student's money. Now, another thing that you would have access to once the students do the FAFSA is the PLUS loan, which is the parent loan for undergraduate students. It basically maxes out at like the entire cost of attendance. The interest rate is still pretty low, relatively speaking. It's under 8%, but it does depend on the parent's credit history. So you would only be able to access this if the parents have a good credit history. Now, my rule of thumb is, students, you should exhaust your federal loans first before applying for loans from private lenders, since the interest rates can be a lot higher. So for example, if you have to take a loan for $15,000, don't just go straight to the private lenders. Take out that $5,500 first in federal loans and then look for private loans that have the lowest rates. More about that in a bit. Okay, so the first thing that students should be doing right now, my seniors, you should be looking at your college list. Now, you need to record this information somewhere, like a spreadsheet would be great, or you could use an old-fashioned notebook. That's totally fine. But you need to look at who's going to need FAFSA. That's pretty much everybody on your list. Who's going to need FAFSA and TAP. So those are just the schools within New York State. The threshold for getting a TAP grant is taxable income of 80,000 or below. That's for 2022. And that taxable income, by the way, includes pensions and it includes child support. Now, some of you are applying to schools that also use a thing called the CSS profile. So a school could use the FAFSA, CSS profile, and TAP. So the CSS profile is like yet another way for colleges to figure out financial aid. It is a little bit more, I'm going to say, intense than answering the FAFSA questions. Now, this is going to be for some private colleges and also some out-of-state public schools. So, for example, let's see, locally, Fordham uses the CSS profile, NYU uses it, Columbia uses it, Barnard uses it, Cornell uses it, Syracuse uses it, but schools like Wagner College don't use it. St. John's doesn't use it. Pace doesn't use it. So you want to look at that list of who uses it. It's on collegeboard.org. So what is open right now? TAP is open right now and CSS is open right now. FAFSA doesn't open until December 31st. So what I am suggesting is that you go to each college's website and you go to the financial aid part of the website and you look to see who needs what. So you can see that NYU right here tells you that US citizens, permanent residents, and eligible non-citizens, those are the people who are here under refugee or asylum, they're going to need CSS profile. They're also going to need FAFSA. And if they live within New York, which we all do, they're going to need TAP. Okay, it will also tell you on that same page what the deadlines are for everything. So if you applied, like, let's say early action or early decision, there'll be an earlier deadline than the schools where you applied regular decision. And I can't give you one set date. You have to go to each one and see what their deadline is. There we go. So before you apply for financial aid, you need to gather your documents and your info. So you're going to need social security numbers for the student and the parents. If you guys have green cards, you need to gather the alien registration numbers. You could just take a picture of it. You're going to need the parents' dates of birth and the date that they were married, separated, divorced, or widowed. You're going to need the 2022 federal and state taxes, the W-2s from 2022, and any other earnings records. Okay, that'll be for the parents. And then the student, if the student did taxes in 2022, you need those. If the student got a W-2 in 2022 because they work part-time, find that as well. You're also going to need documentation if the student or the parents get non-taxable income, like welfare benefits, Social Security income, or veterans benefits. You're going to need to locate your asset info, which is the value of cash, savings, and checkings accounts, and also the net worth of your investments and businesses. So, for example, if the parents have a small business, like a deli, they need to find the net worth of that. If they have any investments, like, for example, a 529 plan, which is like a college savings plan for their students, then that's what they would need to go and find. And then last but not least, you need the list of colleges to which you are applying. Because when you list the colleges on your financial aid forms, that is, and then you submit the financial aid forms, that is how the colleges get your financial aid information. Okay, so you are applying for aid for the 2024-2025 school year. I know this is confusing because, in fact, I've already talked to a bunch of people who got really excited about financial aid and they applied already. guess what? They did it wrong. You can't apply for aid for the 23-24 school year because you're still in high school during that time. You're always applying for the school year that you're going to be in college. So right now, you're seniors, you're applying for the 24-25 school year. When you apply for aid, use your personal email address because your NYC student's address will go bye-bye after you graduate. And the name that you use to apply for aid must match what is on your social security card. So that means if your social security card has two last names, that's what you're putting on your financial aid. The parent's name also needs to match what is on their social security cards. So if, I don't know, you're using your mom's info and your mom's social security card still has her maiden name, you will have to put the financial aid down in her maiden name as well. So it all has to match. Now, TAP, which is New York State Student Aid, it already opened on November 1st. You are able to do this now if you want to. If you want to wait until January, that's fine. But if you really want to get going on this, you could do it now. So to be eligible to apply for TAP, you need the household income to be below $80,000. And like I said, that includes pensions and child support. TAP is only usable for colleges based in New York State, whether they're private or public, it doesn't matter. But realize that, like, even if you just drive over the bridge and you commute to Kane University every day, or you commute to Rutgers every day, even though you're still living at home, that TAP money can't go to a New Jersey school. It's only for schools that are physically based within New York State. So the TAP awards range from $100 to $5,665 a year. Students do not have to wait for the FAFSA to fill out the New York State TAP application. The TAP application will be saved, awaiting receipt of the student's FAFSA, as long as you complete it by February 15th. It will be processed once they get the FAFSA. If you don't complete the FAFSA by February 15th, your TAP will be deleted and you'll have to start a new one. So you are able to do the TAP after February 15th. It's fine. It's just if you want to get going on it early, realize that the FAFSA is also going to need to be done by February 15th. So the website for TAP is right there at the bottom. Now, about the FAFSA. New York State students leave an estimated $200 million unclaimed by not submitting the FAFSA. And remember, doing the FAFSA is free. So even if you think you won't qualify, submit the FAFSA. Completing it allows you to apply for state and institutional aid. So it's not mandatory to do the FAFSA. However, if you apply to a school like NYU or Cornell or Columbia and you get in, if you don't do the FAFSA, you're only going to qualify for institutional aid. You're not going to get anything because of income. In my opinion, I think you should do the FAFSA at least for freshman year just to see if it helps you at all. If it doesn't help you, fine. It was like an hour of your life that you won't get back. It's fine. But there's a decent chance that you might access aid that you wouldn't ordinarily receive. So you can still do the FAFSA even if your parents don't file taxes. And you can appeal your case with the College Financial Aid Office if you're not happy with your aid package. You have to apply for aid every year using the taxes from 2 years prior. So that means for my current seniors, you're applying for the 2024-2025 school year, you're using the 2022 taxes. Next year, when you're applying for aid for your sophomore year, you're using the 2023 taxes. Now, this is something that all seniors can do right now before the FAFSA opens up on December 31st. The student and the parent have to create their FSA IDs before they apply for FAFSA. FSA ID is how you're able to sign it electronically. I do not suggest that you do the FAFSA on paper. I know it exists, but I will tell you right now that if you make a mistake on the paper FAFSA, it's going to take months before they contact you to tell you that you made a mistake. Whereas if you do it online, you won't be able to move on to the next page if you made a mistake. So I really feel like the way to go is the online version of the FAFSA. So students, if you have parents without social security numbers, they can use their ITIN number, which is the individual taxpayer identification number that's on their taxes, to create an FSA ID instead. If your parents don't have a social security number and they don't have an ITIN, they can also get an FSA ID by submitting proof of identity, such as a driver's license, a state or a NYC ID, foreign passport, or other documentation. FSA IDs will need to be verified by the federal government before you can start the FAFSA, and that can take 1 to 3 days. If you do the FAFSA online, there is no longer a paper signature page option. Everything gets done electronically if you're doing it online. So like I said, you can create an FSA ID now, even though the FAFSA doesn't open till December 31st. And that is the website for creating your FSA ID. Highly recommend, guys, that you record your username and password on your phone, like in your Notes app, for instance. Do not just save it on your home computer. I know it's so easy to just like say, oh, save on my laptop. But the problem is you might have an issue on your FAFSA, or you need me to look at it for some reason. In a case like that, you're going to need the FSA ID for both the student and the parent to fix it, to open it up. It's way annoying to sit there and try to, reset the password 20 times, and we have no service in the school. So trust me, record your username and password, record the parent username and password, have it clearly labeled. You're going to need it for the next 4 years. Okay. So put it somewhere really clear. Don't just save it in your photos, because you'll be looking for it forever. Put it in your Notes app so you can always find it. So this is a major question that I get asked a lot. Which parent, how am I listing my parents on the FAFSA? So for the purposes of the FAFSA, a parent means your legal parent. That's your biological or your adoptive parent. Or it could be a person that the state has determined to be your legal parent. A step parent is considered a parent if they have adopted you. Step parents that have not adopted you would be identified as a parent spouse. So the question is, are your biological or adoptive parents married to each other? If they're married, then on the FAFSA, their marital status is married, not separated. And both of their info would be included on the FAFSA. If your parents did not file taxes jointly, then both of them are considered contributors. Both of them would need FSA IDs. If they filed jointly, then only one parent is required as a contributor and will report the info for both parents. Then only that parent would need an FSA ID. Dependent students, and I got to tell you, like 99% of my seniors are dependent students, they are required to report parent info on the FAFSA. Contributors are required to provide their info, signature, and consent to have their federal tax info transferred directly from the IRS into the FAFSA. But don't get thrown by that word contributor. I really wish that the FAFSA wouldn't use that word, because I know it freaks people out. But being a contributor just means you're contributing to the FAFSA. You're contributing info on the FAFSA. It does not mean you are obligated to pay for the student's education. That is why I put that in red. Okay, so don't get thrown by that word contributor. So let's talk about dependents for a second. If you, the student, are living with, I don't know, family friends, or you're living with your auntie, or you're living with your grandma, or you're living with, I don't know, your uncle, right? Unless that person has legally adopted you, you are not using their info on the FAFSA. It does not matter who claims you on their taxes. You are only using biological or adoptive parents on the FAFSA. So yeah, that might mean you live with grandma. Maybe you sometimes see mom, but grandma is usually the person who has financial support for you. You're not using grandma's info. You're going to ask mom for her info. You don't have to list dad if you have no contact with dad. You would just list mom as separated or divorced, whatever her situation is. You're not listing the person you live with unless they have given birth to you or they're your adoptive parent. Now, do your biological or adopted parents live together? Okay, well, let's say that your parents never got married, but they live together. So that means both legal parents live together. That means both of your parents are contributors, even if they were never married, are divorced, or are separated. Their individual information, consent, and approval and signatures will be required on the FAFSA form. So if your parents are not married but live together, then both parents will need FSA IDs. Both are considered contributors to the FAFSA. Nobody's obligated to pay for your college, just contributors to the FAFSA. Okay, so what if your parents are divorced or separated? So then the question is, did one of your parents provide more financial support than the other over the past 12 months? So let's say that, let's say for the sake of argument, your dad has provided more financial support than your mom. So his information, his individual information, consent and approval and signature will be required on the FAFSA form. And this parent would be identified as the contributor. If they basically share custody and share support, and not one person was basically equal with the other in terms of how much they were contributing, then you're using the individual information, consent, and approval and signature of the parent who has the greater income or assets on the FAFSA form. And this parent would be identified as a contributor. Once again, it does not matter who claims you on their taxes, because many is the time that divorced parents will, one person will claim one sibling and the other one will claim the other sibling. Or I've even seen cases where somebody's brother was claiming them on their taxes. It doesn't matter who claims you. It just comes down to who provided more financial support than the other over the past 12 months. Okay, so let's say your parents are divorced and one of them remarried. The parent who is going to be the main contributor has remarried or married. Then that step parent would also be identified as a contributor on the FAFSA form if they didn't file their taxes jointly with your parent. Again, contributor on the FAFSA just means you're using their information on the FAFSA. It does not mean that that step parent or parent are obligated to pay for your college. So if that parent hasn't remarried, then you're just using their info. I know that's really complicated, guys. I am happy to answer any questions that you have about this. Students can, always come and see me first and fifth period. If you're missing class, to come and see me, get a pass from your teacher first. You can always email me at collegeoffice@wagnerhigh.net. Parents and students can text me at 848-218-5754. I will only read and respond to emails and texts during school hours, just so you know. Now, some other FAFSA tips. I believe that this is only true for this aid application cycle because it's a newly revamped FAFSA and they're still working out the kinks. But just for this particular aid cycle for 24-25, you're not going to get a confirmation that it was submitted until the end of January. So if you do this January 2nd, right? You're really hot to trot and you want to get it done. You're not going to get a confirmation until the end of January. Colleges will not receive your info on the FAFSA till the end of January. Also, you can't make any corrections on the FAFSA until the end of January. So this includes adding any additional schools. You can list up to 20 schools initially on your FAFSA, but let's say you applied to 25. Well, if you apply to 25 schools, at the end of January, you can go back into your FAFSA, take out the 20 schools once the colleges have, gotten your information, then you're able to add in the 5 additional or 10 additional or whatever that you applied to on that FAFSA. Okay, but you don't do that until you've gotten your confirmation that it was submitted. Then you're able to go back in and take out the old ones and put in the new ones. So I know this is all blowing your mind. We have a whole bunch of help available in the college office. So students, if you need help creating an FSA ID, you can stop in the college office periods 0 and 1. We open up at 7:30. Bring a photo of your social security number or write it down because you're going to need that. And then if you're missing class, like I said, get a pass from your teacher first. And then In January itself, students and parents can get help completing the FAFSA on Mondays and Wednesdays from 7 to 8 p.m. It's going to be virtual, and we're going to post that info and the Zoom link for it later on in the month. I'll be doing it. Ms. Clemente, who's the college office secretary, will also be doing it. And so she'll also be able to translate for any parents who would prefer to do this in Spanish. We'll probably do the Zoom meetings as like breakout rooms. And that way we can kind of divide and conquer and see more people that way. Also, during Regents Week, students can get one-to-one help in the college office. And then parents can't come in person during Regents Week, but we can give them help over Zoom during the school day. So appointment links will get posted and emailed later in the month once we have that all squared away. Now, what about scholarships? So yeah, I think this is a great time for students to be applying for scholarships. Please don't wait until you get your aid packages from your colleges, because by that point, a whole bunch of scholarships have already expired. There's scholarships every month. So I really think you should be looking for those right now. So if you need help with accessing scholarship forms, completing them, sending them and mailing them, if you need transcripts or recommendations, you're going to come and talk to the staff in my office. If you're asked for a counselor or recommender email, use collegeoffice@wagnerhigh.net so that we get the invitation and the request, and we can just handle it right away with the stuff that we already have on file for you. If you put the teacher's info or your guidance counselor's info, now you have to wait for them to notice that they've gotten it, and then they end up forwarding it to me anyway. So all you're doing if you use your guidance counselor or your teacher's info is you are delaying the whole process. So please just use my info. You can use their name, but use my info, my college office at wagnerhigh.net, and then I'm able to send stuff for them. So scholarships are also free money that you don't have to pay back. You can get them for different things. So for example, athletic scholarships, academic scholarships, leadership, theater, music, writing, art, they're usually competitive. And you can get them from institutions like colleges. You can get them from organizations, right? You can get them from scholarships that are national. But I got to tell you, the ones that are the best ones to get are the ones that are, open to New York State, or even better, local or civic organizations, because you're competing with fewer people. So the first place that if I were you, I would look for scholarships would be Naviance. Now, like I said, I've been doing this job for 17 years. I have collected a ton of scholarships from all over the country, but more importantly, there's a whole bunch that are local that aren't anywhere else on the internet. Like literally, they mailed me a paper copy of the scholarship application, like it's 1985. And I took it and I scanned it and put it into Naviance for you. Okay. You're probably going to be competing with like a handful of people locally for that scholarship. So you have a great chance of getting it. Okay, so this is what it looks like when you go into Naviance. You go to the colleges tab at the top of the screen, and then you go over to scholarship search, which I've circled in orange. And then you can use the filter box to just type in different keywords and see what pops up. So for instance, here I typed in the word easy, and then you can see that a whole bunch of scholarships show up. You can see the deadline, and you can see the maximum award. So just a note about maximum awards. It's really rare to see a scholarship that covers the entire cost of attendance of going to a school. It's super rare. There's like 4 or 5 of them, honestly. And as you can imagine, they're incredibly hard to win. What is way more common is that people go to college and pay for it using a combination of things, using a combination of federal aid and state aid. And maybe they got a handful of scholarships from the college, and then maybe they applied for some other outside scholarships. There's no limit on the number of scholarships you can apply for. You can certainly apply for 10, 20, 30, whatever you want. And then they're stackable. You can win a whole bunch, take them with you. Every year, the people who win the most scholarship money, they're generally not the people at the very top of the class. They're usually the kids who treated applying to scholarships like a job, where every week they applied for something. And, once you've written an essay once about your community service, right? Or once you've like written an essay about your goals, you can just keep tweaking and reusing that thing over and over again and use it for multiple scholarships. Why not? So hang on. This is another one where I did a search for local, and these are all scholarships that are local. So it's a little bit more for like New York City or Staten Island. And again, you can see the deadlines listed there and the maximum awards. Oh, I should point out also, if parents, if you belong to a union, there is a very good chance that your union gives scholarships to members' kids. So look into that. Talk to your shop steward, go on your union's website and do a search for scholarship. And there is a very decent chance that they do have a scholarship that your kid can apply for. And many, many times that scholarship is like a lottery where they just take all the kids who applied and they pick like, you know, randomly 200 of them to win some money. So, you know, it's never like a huge amount of money, but hey, even if it's like 1,000 or two, totally worth it, right? And kids win these scholarships all the time. So if you're in the NYPD or you're in the FDNY and you belong to like one of the cultural organizations, like for example, the Emerald Society or the NYPD Columbus organization for like Italian officers, all of these have scholarships. So talk to the powers that be, find out what's available to you. And parents, if you work for a huge corporation, go talk to human resources or go on like the HR website and do a search for scholarships as well. You'd be surprised. There's actually quite a few scholarships out there for you know, the children of parents who work for big corporations like American Express, for example, or Macy's. So this is what it looks like when you open up one of the scholarships. This one happens to be the Albert Shanker. It's through the UFT, and the applicants just need to meet criteria for low income. And you can see the maximum award is 5,000. The deadline is February 28th. Renewable. Okay, renewable means can a student get this every year? So the difference is like, so renewable is like you can access this money every year versus not renewable means you only get it one time. So you need to take that into account. You can't like assume that you get it for, you know, freshman year and then you're going to get it for sophomore year too. So you need to look into that. Okay, so you can also see, I usually try to indicate if it's open to US citizens and undocumented students. If it says both of them, then that means either one can apply. If it only says one of them, like US citizen, and it doesn't say undocumented, then only US citizens or legal permanent residents can apply. And then you can see down there at the bottom where it says how to apply, I've got the required documents, and then that blue apply online link will take you to the website for the scholarship. Okay, this is another one that I posted just to show you what it looks like. So the Columbus Citizens Foundation Scholarship. This is a local scholarship. It's due March 1st. Maximum award is just over $6,000. It is renewable. And it's for applicants who are at least 25% Italian. And they need to be from a household where income doesn't exceed $25,000 per person. So for example, if there's 4 people in the house, the gross household income can't exceed $100,000 per year. So there is a link for this at the bottom that you can apply for. Okay, here's another one, the Jackie Robinson Scholarship for minority seniors. It's due January 11th, maximum award $6,000. It is renewable. And the applicants need to be minorities and have leadership potential, community service, and financial need. So there's a ton of these. There's probably over 1,000 scholarships that I've put together in Naviance. So highly recommend that you take some time to go through it. What you can do is if you find a scholarship that you like, you can heart it and make it a favorite. And then you can have like just a list of your favorites and you can use that to apply from. Okay, so I wanted to show you what an aid package looks like. Let's see. Trying to hide this. Oops. Whoops. Sorry about that. Let me go back. Sorry, the avatar keeps popping up, so I'll just keep moving it around. So here is what like an example of an aid package would look like. So you can see that this particular college is telling you that the direct cost, that's the tuition and housing, cost $45,000, right? That's the billable stuff. The indirect cost, that was all the extras, right? The books, supplies, transportation and stuff is 2,500. So the cost of attendance for the school, that's adding both of those things together, would be 47,500 a year. Whew, that's a lot. But check this out. The gift aid, which is the money that doesn't have to be paid back, that's the grants and the scholarships. They are being offered, the student is being offered $35,800 a year. They're also being offered 7,500 in loans, which they don't have to take. I mean, if they happen to have money socked away that they want to use for that, fine. They're just saying this is what's available to you. And then they're telling you that work study is $1,800. So the balance, the amount that's left over, the gap, right, would be 47,500 minus the grants and scholarships, the loans, and the work study. That leaves this person with a gap of $4,200. Suddenly, this school that was almost like $48,000 a year costs the student more like 4,200 a year. So this might be a viable option for the student. So that 4,200, that might even be easier to manage if the student reaches out to the financial aid office at the college and says, hey, instead of giving you two big fat checks for 4,200, I should explain. So you usually get billed every semester. So you get billed twice. So they would take that 4,200 and divide it by two. Okay. If you don't have that kind of money lying around, you could ask the financial aid office, hey, what does a payment plan look like? And then if you're doing it per month, it's a lot easier to manage. I also want to mention that work study, it's not really something you can use for tuition. Because work study is basically like a little part-time job at the college. So maybe the student would be like swiping IDs at the health center, or they'd be shelving books at the library, or giving tours in the admissions office. So when you have a little part-time job like that, you're paid, you get a check like a normal job. You would get a check like every 2 weeks. So those little checks are going to be good for things like transportation, right? Or having to buy book supplies, or I don't know, getting pizza on a Friday night. Like that's what that would cover. You're not going to get one big giant check that you would use towards tuition. So that's more like just money, like pocket money. Okay, so let's show you what something else would look like. So at CUNY, a bachelor's degree costs only about $3,465 per semester. So that comes out to under $7,000 a year. An associate's degree, which is the 2-year community college degrees, that is even less. It's $2,400 a semester, which would come out to $4,800 a year. So I just want to point this out, that a student who receives Pell and TAP grants can often go to CUNY for free. No loans, no loans. In fact, I usually see people who get Max, Pell, and TAP grants. Not only do they get to go to CUNY for free, they get more money than the tuition. So you get a check for that extra money, and you're able to use that for your MetroCard. You're able to use that for your textbooks. You could use that, I don't know, to buy yourself a laptop. So it is really a good deal. Like there's a reason why over half of my seniors end up at a CUNY. The money makes sense. And if you're not going to be somebody whose federal and state aid covers the whole thing, you can look at this thing called the Excelsior Scholarship. So this is free CUNY SUNY tuition for 4 years, just the tuition, not the room and board. It's for students whose household income is less than $125,000 for 2022. So the catch to getting the Excelsior Scholarship is that you have to agree to complete 30 college credits per year. All right, before you freak out, remember, college credits are different from high school credits. So in high school, you take one class, it's like one credit. In college, a typical class is 3 credits. So 30 credits per year is kind of like saying 10 classes per year, which is roughly 5 classes a semester. I do want to point out that if you go in with College Now credits, or your college accepts your AP credits, or you've got like St. John's University College Advantage credits, those can count towards the 30 credits per year. Also, you have to agree to live and work in New York State for the same number of years that you receive the award. So, for example, if you get the Excelsior Scholarship all 4 years, you're saying, okay, New York State, I'm going to live and work here for 4 years after I graduate. Now, if you decide that, I don't know, you want to take a job offer in Florida, right? And you're not going to be able to stay for the whole 4 years, that's okay. New York State lets you go do that. Just realize that, like, let's say you did 2 years in New York State and now you're going to, kind of renege on your contract. You're going to owe New York State 2 years worth of tuition. But mind you, there's no interest, and you would have paid for that tuition anyway if you didn't get the Excelsior. So I still think it's a pretty good deal. And I do want to point out that the Excelsior Scholarship will pay for whatever tuition isn't covered by federal and state aid. So, for example, if you get, $4,000 from federal and state aid, then the Excelsior Scholarship will pay for the remaining $4,800, the remaining like $3,000 that you would need for CUNY tuition. So the Excelsior Scholarship doesn't open until, they didn't give me a hard deadline, but it usually opens right after the New York State budget has been approved. So lately it's been happening in late May, early June. And of course, the minute I find out, I blast it. I let everybody know that it's open and that they need to jump on it. Okay. So to get ready for the Excelsior, you have to do the FAFSA, you do the TAP, and then when the Excelsior opens, you jump on it and you complete the application for Excelsior. So another thing that is helpful is using a debt calculator. So if you need to find private loans, you can use this website, Bankrate. But I really like the loan calculator, which is the link on the bottom. This helps you figure out what your payment is going to look like. So I'll show you. It looks like this. So you put in the loan amount and you put in how long they're giving you to pay back the loan, and you put in the interest rate. And you will be able to see what it looks like as a monthly payment, which is really helpful. 35,000 just sounds like Monopoly money to me, but if you do it as a monthly payment, it just makes way more sense. So this I find really useful. And by the way, Bankrate has all kinds of really cool calculators. There's a credit card calculator that I use to help me pay off my credit card bills. This is really something that I recommend. I think it's awesome. Okay, well, here's a little funny, not funny cartoon for you. So, if you just take random loans and you don't really think about what the payments are going to be like, you could be, still paying back your loan in 50 years. I do not recommend that you take such a massive loan. But use that calculator to help you figure out what it's going to look like. Now, another important thing, how do you lose grants or aid? If you fail to make satisfactory academic progress, that's the term, at your school in grades and credits. So that means that you need at least a 2.0 minimum GPA, and you need 100, you need to be doing at least, you need to earn at least 150% of the required credits to finish your degree. So for example, if you need 120 credits to graduate college, you would get aid for 180 attempted credits. So if you have like a 1.9 GPA, technically you're not failing, but like failing your classes, but you can lose your financial aid if you go below that 2.0 minimum. So that's yet another reason to keep your grades up. If you don't register for enough credits, like let's say full-time at a college would be registering for 12 to 18 credits. If you register for 11 credits, you're not going to be able to get your financial aid. So you have to register for enough credits so that you're moving along on track to graduate college. And if you're convicted of a drug offense, it can also cause you to lose your grants or aid. Now, a question I get asked a lot is, what if things have changed since 2022? So, for example, if the taxes from 2022 are going to look different from the ones for this year because of unemployment, the pandemic. I know I have Hurricane Sandy on here, and that happened in 2012. But some people are still dealing with house and repair issues from that. Even paying someone else's medical or tuition bills. Let's say you're as a parent, you've gotten a new job, maybe you retired, maybe unfortunately one of the parents is now deceased. All kinds of things happen that can make the tax situation different. I have an appeal letter template posted on the Senior Google Classroom. If you go into the Senior Google Classroom, you go to materials, you will see it listed under financial aid. So you can just fill in the blanks on that appeal letter. You send it directly to the financial aid office of each of the colleges that you've applied to. You can just use the BCC field on an email to list all your colleges on there, all the financial aid offices of all the colleges on there. And that way you don't have to do like 52 different emails. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, students, come to the office and I'll show you how to do it. And you have to send that directly to the financial aid offices. So FAFSA is not going to give you more money, but the financial aid offices at the colleges have the leeway to make some decisions and adjust your aid accordingly. So other strategies for getting a better aid package. You can negotiate with the college's financial aid office using other aid offers. So for example, let's say your aid from Wagner College wasn't so great, but Pace gave you a pretty big scholarship and like St. Francis gave you a pretty big scholarship. You can email the financial aid office at Wagner College and say, hey, I really want to go to your school. It's really my first choice. But the aid could be a little bit better. Pace gave me $20,000 a year, and St. Francis gave me $18,000 a year. And you have to send them a scanned copy of those aid offers. They can't just take your word for it. Then they're able to go back to the financial aid director and find out, are there any other grants that we can give this kid? Is there any other scholarship money that we can offer this student? It's one of those things where if you don't ask, you don't get. And they don't get mad at you. Like the worst that they'll say to you is, no, we're not able to help you at this time. But you might as well negotiate and just see if it means you're going to get a little more money. Generally, I find that this works really well for my students. I've had people, get $10,000 more. It's possible, but you need to ask. So I do have an appeal letter for this also posted on the Senior Class Google Classroom. Okay, another strategy that parents can use for getting a better aid package is to transfer money from the student's 529 plan to a sibling or other family member. Also, you can reduce the amount in your bank accounts. So for example, you transfer the money in your checking account to another bank account, or you take it out in cash and then you put it back. Basically, it's because when you complete the FAFSA, they ask you for how much is in the bank accounts and in the 529 plan on the day that you submit the FAFSA. You can move the money back afterwards. It's totally legal. You're allowed to do that. It's your money. You're allowed to move it. But this is a way to take it out so that they don't see what the assets are. So just saying. And okay, some last tips. Like I said before, you need to apply for private scholarships soon. Don't wait for your aid offers in like February and March, okay? Because by that point, a whole bunch of things will have expired. Do this over the break, okay? The aid packages are going to start showing up in February and March. Check your email that you applied to college with. A lot of times the college will tell the student, hey, there's a student portal that you should use or a student website. That's where they're going to post the aid package. Sometimes they don't send you a paper copy. So the CUNYs and SUNYs are notorious for this. Okay, so you have to actually go into that student portal to see the aid package. Don't be afraid to contact the college's financial aid office to ask when you can expect a financial aid offer. And make sure that you apply for aid by the college's deadlines. I've had kids who, got into a great school, but then waited too long to do the financial aid, and they really were not offered a decent scholarship because they waited too long and the money was all gone. Okay, the money barrel dried up. So you need to make sure that you're asking on time. Okay, so I have 5 more minutes. If anybody has questions in the chat, we can take a look at that. I'm gonna stop my share and let's see what we got here. Do they actually check bank accounts? They can ask for like a screenshot of your bank account on that day. So you may you may want to like print out the statement so you can see that. Somebody else asked me, when will I get the email? I created an ID 2 weeks ago, but did not get any notice. They need to verify. So you may want to check. You can call, oh, I forgot to post this. You can call FAFSA at 1-800, the number 4, Fed Aid to contact them. But also check your spam because sometimes that's where it goes. Do you know how long it takes to move the money from the 529 plan? I don't know this off the top of my head, but I do know it's totally legal. So you could maybe do it like a week in advance and then move it back. Okay. Is the Zoom repeated? No, I'm recording it and I'm going to send it out. Where do I go to make an ID? Okay. So Velio, that is on the presentation. And you're going to just wait. Once you make the FSA ID, you're just going to wait until December 31st when it opens up. Okay, so let's see, what's another one? Oh, and like I said, you can come to the college office with your social security number and we can help you to create the FSA ID in our office, period 0, period 1. What if one parent is deceased? Do they need the death certificate? The FAFSA won't need a death certificate, but the TAP, which is New York State Aid, will need a copy of the death certificate uploaded. Okay, are there waivers available for CSS? If the income is low enough, you automatically get waived for the CSS fees. Usually it's $16 per school that you're listing on the CSS profile. If the income isn't considered low enough by CSS, then you don't get a waiver. And that's not like me, that's the CSS people. What is a 529 plan? That is a college savings plan. For athletic scholarships, can D3 schools still give scholarships? D3 schools never do give athletic scholarships. However, I have seen cases where students applied for aid. Applied to a D3 school, and like the coach knew at the D3 school knew they were going to play for them. And so did the kid, obviously. They, got an aid package, but they don't say that it's athletic. They basically just call it something else. So it is possible. I do like a D3 school though, because then your money isn't tied to you playing for them. So that's kind of cool. All right. Somebody else mentioned if you need to move more than 10,000, doesn't it create tax issues? Yeah, it probably does. So you will want to talk to your accountant. I am not a tax professional. You will want to talk to your accountant about moving big old fat amounts of money. If you don't qualify for financial aid, when do you apply for student loans, for example, for dorming? Like I said, even if your parents are millionaires, you, the student, would qualify for financial aid, at least for the loans. So I would recommend doing the federal loan first for dorming, right? $5,500 can be used for dorming. And then if you still need money, then you could do a private loan after that. So we're talking about in the spring. That is when you would apply for additional loans. Okay. Somebody couldn't find the Google Classroom sample appeal letter. Shoot me an email tomorrow or tonight, and I will respond tomorrow with the appeal letter. So that's collegeoffice@wagnerhigh.net. Yeah, if you're moving the money to a different bank account, that would be what I mean is, okay, if you have money in a 529 plan for your student, you can move it to a different sibling's 529 plan or somebody else's 529 plan who's a close relative of yours, and that would not be considered a student or parent asset. If it's a checking account or a savings account, yeah, that would need to be moved to somebody else's account, or you'd have to take the cash out. So again, talk to your accountant about the tax implications, because I am not a tax professional. And is it true that the sooner you submit your FAFSA application, you have better opportunities? You don't get more money from the federal government or the state for submitting your FAFSA application like the minute it opens. However, it does mean that the colleges will be able to allocate your institutional aid a little bit earlier than if you were to apply later. So if I were you, students, I would do the FAFSA and the TAP during the month of January. You don't have to do it the second it opens, but you can do it during the month of January, and that would give you the most access to the best institutional aid. So that is what I would go for. All right, let's see. What am I missing? Do I have pretty much everything? I think I do. Okay, so I am going to go ahead. Great. Oh, thank you for posting all that stuff, Miss Clemente. I am going to go ahead and call it a night so I can say goodnight to my 7-year-old. And I know you guys all have other issues too to go deal with. Like I said, you can contact me in the office. It's collegeoffice@wagnerhigh.net. You can text me at 848-218-5754, and then be on the lookout for those emails and posters about the virtual and in-person workshops we'll be doing for FAFSA in January. All right, everyone, have a great